My family banned me from Christmas at the $7,000 cabin I paid for, so I want to share something that happened to me, and if it hits home, make sure to show some love by subscribing, liking, or sharing this story with someone who might understand. My name is Lana, I'm 28, and I work as a nurse in Ohio. I've always been the responsible one in my family, the one who keeps things together while everyone else drifts along. Recently, I got promoted at work, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could do something special for my family, a Christmas they'd never forget. I spent weeks planning and saving, and finally, I booked a $7,000 luxury cabin in Colorado. It had everything I thought we could enjoy together: a roaring log fireplace, a hot tub with snowy mountain views, and floor-to-ceiling windows that made the whole place feel like it belonged in a magazine. I imagined us laughing, sharing stories, making memories, and maybe even feeling proud of me for once. My parents, Richard and Elaine, my older brother Mark, my younger sister Tessa, my brother's wife Jessica, and my nephews. I wanted all of them there, under one roof, enjoying a dream Christmas. I pictured us decorating the huge Christmas tree, sipping cocoa by the fire, and even sneaking outside to make snow angels. I wanted them to see how much effort I'd put in, how much I'd sacrificed to create this perfect holiday, and maybe finally understand why I'd always been so responsible, so dependable. For years, I had been the one making sure birthdays, family dinners, and little traditions ran smoothly, often quietly handling what others overlooked. This trip felt like my chance to be celebrated, not just taken for granted. I imagined my nephew's eyes lighting up as they explored the cabin, the smell of cookies baking in the oven, and my family gathered around, laughing and thanking me for something I'd done out of love. I pictured Mark teasing me, Tessa rolling her eyes in that playful way she always did, and my parents smiling proudly. I had this perfect mental movie of Christmas morning, feeling warm, appreciated, and connected with the people I cared about most. I couldn't wait to see the looks on their faces when they stepped into the cabin and realized how special it was, how much I had gone out of my way just to give them a memorable holiday. I had spent my savings, my energy, and my heart on this, dreaming of the laughter and bonding that would finally make me feel like I mattered to my own family. Little did I know, everything I had pictured was about to unravel in the most unexpected way. The cabin I booked was even more beautiful than I imagined. It had a massive log fireplace that dominated the living room, perfect for cozy nights. Outside, there was a hot tub overlooking the snow-covered mountain, and the floor-to-ceiling windows let in the most incredible views, making it feel like you were part of the winter wonderland itself. Every detail felt perfect for the Christmas I had dreamed about giving my family. I had paid the entire $7,000 up front from my saving, wanting it to be a complete surprise. I wanted them to walk in and be blown away, to feel the magic of a holiday I had planned with so much love. It wasn't about showing off, it was about creating memories, finally giving them a Christmas that felt special and meaningful, where we could all be together without distractions or arguments. When I told my family about the cabin, I could tell their reactions weren't exactly what I hoped for. Mark immediately made a joke, saying, "Wow, trying to show off again, huh?" in that teasing tone he always used. I laughed it off, thinking he was just joking, but it stung a little because I knew how much this trip meant to me. Tessa, my younger sister, called it extra, rolling her eyes in a way that made me pause for a moment. Even my parents' reactions were not exactly what I expected. Richard and Elaine smiled politely, calling the gesture thoughtful, but it didn't carry the excitement I had imagined. I had pictured hugs, laughter, and everyone thanking me with genuine warmth. Instead, their smiles were polite, and their comments careful, as if they were impressed but not truly moved. I shrugged off the lukewarm responses. I told myself that once we were there, everything would change. Being in the cabin, surrounded by its warmth and beauty, would make my family feel the love I had poured into this holiday. I was certain they would realize how much effort I had put in, how much I had sacrificed to make this Christmas unforgettable. Every night, I pictured the scene. My family gathered around the fireplace, sipping hot cocoa, telling stories, and laughing together. The hot tub would be filled with squeals of joy from my nephews as they played in the snow nearby. I imagined Tessa finally relaxing, Mark teasing in a playful way, and my parents feeling proud and happy to be there. Despite their initial reactions, I held on to my vision. I believed that this cabin, this dream Christmas, would be the moment my family truly saw me, not just as the responsible one who always did the work behind the scenes, but as someone who cared deeply for them and wanted to give them something magical. I was confident that once they stepped inside, their eyes would light up, and they would understand exactly how much this meant to me. I went to bed each night thinking about that moment, imagining the joy on their faces and the warmth in the cabin, convinced that the holiday I had planned would finally bring everyone together in a way that nothing else ever had. A few weeks before the trip, I started noticing little things that made me uneasy. Group texts about the cabin began popping up, discussions about who would bring food, drinks, and gifts. But strangely, I wasn't included in some of the threads. I had thought it was an oversight at first, maybe a technical glitch, but the pattern kept happening. Each time I tried to join in or ask a question, I got vague answers or was simply ignored. One afternoon, I was in the living room when I overheard Tessa laughing with Jessica, Mark's wife. They were sitting on the couch, phones in hand, joking about the trip. Tessa said something that made my stomach drop. "This trip is going to be our family tradition." Jessica laughed and agreed, and for a moment I froze, barely able to process what I had just heard. I felt a pang of something I hadn't expected: confusion, hurt, and a sense of being left out. I tried to push the thought away and confronted Tessa gently, asking if she meant what I heard. Her reaction caught me off guard. She rolled her eyes, waved it off, and said, "You're too sensitive, Lon. We're just joking." Jessica chimed in with a similar tone, pretending nothing serious had been said. Their laughter made me feel small, like my feelings didn't matter at all. Even though I wanted to believe them, a small knot of unease started to grow in my chest. Why were they joking about a family tradition that I wasn't part of? Why were they excluding me from conversations that should have included the person who had paid for the cabin? I told myself it was nothing, that I was overthinking, that my family wouldn't really betray me after everything I had done for them. I wanted to trust them because for years I had been the one holding everything together, making sure birthdays, holidays, and gatherings went smoothly. Still, the more I noticed these little signs, the harder it was to ignore the creeping feeling that something wasn't right. The laughs I had imagined at the cabin began to feel less certain. Instead of looking forward to family bonding, I found myself hesitating, wondering if maybe my presence wasn't wanted after all. I pushed the thought down, telling myself it had to be coincidence, that misunderstandings happen, and that once we were all together at the cabin, everything would fall into place. I didn't want to believe my family could treat me this way, but a tiny seed of doubt had been planted. I carried on with the planning, determined not to let it ruin the Christmas I had envisioned. I reminded myself of the joy I wanted to create, focusing on the cabin, the hot tub, the fireplace, and the snowy mountain. I clung to the hope that when the moment came, everyone would see how much I cared, and that these small signs were nothing more than harmless jokes. Still, deep down, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that things were not as simple as they seemed. Just a few days before Christmas, I was sitting at my kitchen table, wrapping gifts and checking the cabin itinerary, when my phone rang. It was my mom, Elaine. At first, her voice sounded normal, but as soon as she started speaking, I noticed a strange hesitation, almost an apologetic tone I had never heard. "Sweetheart," she began, and I could hear her choosing her words carefully. "After talking with everyone, we think it would be better if you didn't come. Things might feel tense." I froze, unable to respond at first. I blinked at the phone, thinking maybe I misheard her. "Wait, what do you mean?" "Mom, I booked the cabin. I paid for everything. This was supposed to be our Christmas," I stammered, my voice trembling. There was a pause on the other end. I could hear her sigh softly. "I know, honey, and we appreciate it, really, but it'll just be less complicated without you." I felt my stomach drop. The words didn't make sense. How could they decide this without even talking to me first? I had saved for months, poured my heart and energy into planning this, and now my own family was telling me I couldn't even join them in the place I had paid for. I glanced at the cabin confirmation email on my laptop. My name was on every receipt, every booking detail. I had full control over the reservation. And yet, my mom's voice on the phone was calm, almost rehearsed, as if this was a simple, reasonable decision rather than an outright betrayal. I tried to reason with her, to ask why they would make such a choice. "Mom, we can work this out. I just want us to be together for Christmas," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Elaine hesitated. "It's been decided, Lon. We just think it's better for everyone if you don't come." "I'm sorry." Her words hit me harder than I expected. My father remained silent the entire time, not a single word in my defense. It was as if my presence was not only unwanted, but actively inconvenient. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They weren't just ignoring me. They were literally banning me from the cabin I had spent thousands on, a place I had imagined celebrating with the people I loved. I hung up the phone, staring at the wall in disbelief. My heart felt heavy, a mix of hurt, anger, and confusion swirling together. Everything I had planned, everything I had hoped for, seemed to crumble in that single conversation. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that my family could dismiss me so easily, that they could erase me from the very holiday I had created for them. I sat there for a long moment, trying to process it, feeling the weight of their decision pressing down on me. I had been banned, excluded from my own celebration, from the dream I had worked so hard to give them. It felt surreal, unfair, and deeply painful. I couldn't believe what my mom had just told me, so I grabbed my phone and called Mark, hoping he would say it was a joke or that we could work something out. The moment he answered, I could tell there was no hesitation, no sign of sympathy. "Lana," he said casually, "we talked it over. We just think it's better this way." "What do you mean it's better this way?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I paid for the cabin. I planned this for all of us. How can you just—" "You always act like you're better than us," he interrupted, his tone flat. "We just want to enjoy the holiday without drama. That's all." I blinked, stunned. My heart sank. After everything I had done, after all the sacrifices, this was what I got. He didn't see my efforts, my love, or the hours I had spent planning. To him, I was a problem, a complication, not family. Before I could respond, Tessa's voice came on the speaker, dripping with mockery. "Maybe next time don't try to buy love," she said. Her words were like ice, cutting through any remaining hope I had that my family would see me as more than the money I spent or the work I put into keeping everything running smoothly. I glanced at the phone in disbelief, looking for some sign that anyone would defend me. But my parents were silent, letting it happen without a word. Elaine finally spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "It's already been decided, Lon. There's nothing more to discuss." I felt a wave of betrayal wash over me. My parents, the people I had always tried to please, the ones I had cared for and supported through so many years, were letting this happen. Mark, Tessa, and even Jessica were all in agreement, seeing me not as a sister, daughter, or aunt, but as a source of money and inconvenience. It hit me then, cold and clear. The people I had sacrificed for my whole life didn't see me as family. They didn't see my care, my thoughtfulness, or my efforts to bring everyone together. To them, I was nothing more than a wallet, an outsider who had no right to be part of the celebration I had created. I dropped onto the couch, my hands gripping the phone tightly. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg them to see reason, but their voices in my head kept repeating the same hurtful words. I realized I had spent years putting their happiness above my own, always trying to make things work, always bending for their comfort, and yet I was cast aside like I meant nothing. For the first time, the truth hit me in full force. My family didn't appreciate me, they didn't respect me, and in their eyes, I wasn't entitled to the joy I had worked so hard to give them. I felt completely alone, not just physically barred from the cabin, but emotionally erased from the people I had loved the most. As I hung up the phone, a mix of anger and sadness welled inside me. I realized that from now on, I couldn't let them treat me like— if they saw me as nothing but money and an outsider, then I had to find a way to take control, to protect myself, and to make them understand the cost of underestimating. Christmas Eve arrived, and I woke up with a heavy feeling in my chest. I had imagined this day for months, picturing laughter, warmth, and the smell of pine and cookies filling the cabin. Instead, I was alone in my apartment, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself. That's when my cousin sent a few pictures from the cabin. My heart sank as I saw the images. There was the giant tree I had chosen, already decorated with ornaments and twinkling lights. My parents, Mark, Tessa, Jessica, and my nephews were all there, smiling, laughing, pouring wine, and enjoying themselves exactly how I had planned. But I wasn't there. Every smile, every cozy moment, was happening without me, as if I had never existed. I scrolled faster, hoping it was a mistake, hoping there would be some mention of me or the effort I had put in. But there was nothing. My heart tightened further when I saw a message Jessica had posted in a family group chat. She was bragging to our extended relatives about the family trip Mark organized, complete with photos of the cabin and everyone having a good time. Not a single mention of me, the person who had rented the cabin, paid the bills, and imagined the perfect holiday for them. I felt a rush of anger mixed with deep sadness. I had poured my savings, my time, and my energy into this Christmas, wanting to bring everyone together, and they had not only excluded me, but erased every trace of my role in making it happen. It wasn't just that I was banned. It was the way they acted like I hadn't done anything at all. They didn't acknowledge me, my efforts, or even my existence in the moments I had dreamed of sharing. As I stared at the photos, I could see the joy I had wanted for them, but it didn't bring comfort. It brought the sting of betrayal. The hot chocolate mugs in their hands, the cozy seating by the fireplace, the laughter echoing in the pictures. All of it belonged to me, and yet I had been completely cut out. My family had turned the dream I had created into their own story, pretending that I had nothing to do with it. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I shouldn't care, that I had at least created something beautiful, even if I wasn't part of it. But the truth hit me like a punch in the stomach. I had been treated not just unfairly, but cruelly. They had deliberately excluded me, erased my contribution, and even made it seem like they were the ones responsible for the magic. Sitting there, scrolling through the endless updates and smiling faces, I felt the ultimate sting of betrayal. It wasn't just that I was left out of the cabin. I was invisible in a holiday I had built for them. My heart ached, a mix of hurt and disbelief. and I realized that this Christmas wasn't going to be the warm, joyful family gathering I had imagined. It had turned into a moment of bitter clarity, showing me exactly how little I meant to the people I had given everything to. I sank onto my couch, surrounded by the neatly wrapped presents I had bought for my nephew, gifts that now felt like empty reminders of everything I had lost. My hands trembled as tears streamed down my face. I couldn't believe how cruelly my family had treated me. I had poured my heart, my savings, and months of planning into this Christmas, and they had not only excluded me, they had erased me from the story entirely. I buried my face in my hands, sobbing, feeling a mix of heartbreak and fury building inside me. For the first time, the pain of betrayal was more than I could bear quietly. The images from the cabin, the photos and messages I had seen through my cousin's updates, kept replaying in my mind, each one stabbing at me with the reminder that I had been treated like I didn't matter. After a while, my tears slowed, and a simmering anger took over. I wiped my face and looked around the apartment, noticing the unopened gifts and the quiet, empty room. I needed to think, to find some way to regain control over the situation. My eyes landed on the folder I had tucked away months ago, the cabin contract and receipts. My hands shook as I opened it, pulling out each piece of paper, scanning the details carefully. And then it hit me. The reservation was under my name only. Every receipt, every agreement, every authorization for access was in my name. I had full legal control over the property during the entire rental period. My heart started racing, not with fear this time, but with a cold, sharp clarity. I had power in this situation, power they had completely underestimated. A thought formed in my mind, sudden and decisive, cutting through the despair like a knife. They wanted to exclude me? Fine. If they wanted to leave me out of my own Christmas, then it would be their turn to feel the sting of exclusion. For years, I had been the one who bent, who gave, who smoothed over their problem, never standing up for myself. Now, I had an opportunity to reclaim control, to show them that I was not someone they could dismiss or erase so easily. The anger sharpened into resolve. I imagined their shocked faces, the confusion, the frustration, as they realized that the perfect holiday they had taken from me could easily be turned around. I felt a strange, almost exhilarating thrill at the thought of taking back what was mine, of using the very situation they had created to teach them a lesson. I sat there for a long moment, clutching the contract, letting the weight of realization sink in. No one had considered that I could act, that I had both the means and the legal right to reclaim the cabin. The thought of finally taking a stand, of no longer being the invisible, taken-for-granted family member, ignited something fierce inside me. By the end of the evening, my tears had dried, replaced by a determined calm. I had been hurt, yes, but I was no longer helpless. The betrayal had revealed a truth I could no longer ignore. It was time to stop being the victim and start being the one in control. Their holiday, my family's perfect Christmas, would have to go on my terms, or not at all. On Christmas morning, I woke early, a quiet sense of determination replacing the anger and hurt that had consumed me the night before. I grabbed my phone and called the rental company, carefully explaining the situation. I told them that I was the only person authorized on the booking, that no one else had permission to occupy the cabin, and that the guests currently there did not have my approval. The representative on the other end listened politely and confirmed that, indeed, all access and authorization were under my name alone. Everything was in place. I hung up, heart pounding, feeling a mixture of nerves and satisfaction. The plan was set, and there was no turning back. I imagined my family waking up, excited for the day I had envisioned for them, completely unaware that the very cabin they were about to enjoy was now under my control in a way they had never expected. By mid-morning, as the first hints of sunlight filtered through the snowy mountains, the cabin staff arrived. They knocked on the door, and when Mark opened it, they explained calmly but firmly that the occupants had to vacate immediately, as per the request of the authorized renter. Confusion spread across his face, quickly turning into anger as he read the official documents in their hands. "Wait, what? You can't do this!" Mark shouted, his voice echoing through the cabin. Tessa's eyes widened in panic, and she began screaming. "This isn't fair. This is ridiculous." My parents looked around helplessly, and Elaine's voice shook as she begged. "Please, this has to be a mistake." But the staff followed procedure without hesitation. They had no choice but to enforce the rules. My family scrambled, grabbing belongings, packing up presents, decorations, and personal items in a frenzy of chaos. The snow outside added to their misery, chilling them as they moved hurriedly from room to room. I could almost hear their furious shouts and complaints through the phone in my mind, imagining their disbelief and humiliation. The family I had sacrificed so much for was now scrambling, embarrassed and angry, while I sat in my apartment, removed from the chaos, yet fully in control. Every shout, every panicked gesture, Every flustered movement added to a quiet satisfaction building inside me. They had tried to erase me, to exclude me from something I had created with my own hands, money, and heart. Now the tables had turned. The perfect Christmas they had stolen from me was slipping from their fingers in the most humiliating way. As they finally trudged through the freezing snow, pulling bags and gifts, I allowed myself a small, private smile. The power I had discovered the night before, the knowledge that I controlled the cabin, was now fully realized. I hadn't done anything cruel beyond enforcing the rules, yet the humiliation and chaos they faced were entirely of their own making. For the first time, I felt an unfamiliar sense of calm satisfaction. I had been wronged, but now I had acted. The betrayal they inflicted would not go unanswered. Today, they learned that I was not someone to be taken for granted, and I had taken back control in the most complete way possible. With the cabin finally empty, I grabbed my coat, slipped into my car, and drove up the winding snowy road toward the place I had dreamed of for months. The air was crisp, the mountains glistening in the soft morning light. As I pulled into the driveway, the cabin stood there quietly, untouched and still, waiting for me. I stepped inside, the silence wrapping around me like a heavy but comforting blanket. I walked through the room slowly, taking in the warmth of the space I had created. The fireplace crackled when I lit it, filling the cabin with a cozy glow. I poured myself a glass of wine and settled into one of the big armchairs, letting the soft heat of the flames seep into me. The snow outside sparkled against the windows, a perfect winter scene that I could have shared with my family, but now it was mine alone. I looked around at the decorations, the tree standing proudly in the corner with ornaments I had carefully selected, the twinkling lights reflecting off the polished wood floor. Everything I had imagined for Christmas was here, exactly as I had planned. The only difference was that the laughter, the chaos, and the warmth of my family were missing. The silence was heavy, yet in a strange way it was peaceful. No arguments, no mocking comments, no dismissive smiles, just me and the quiet comfort of the space I had paid for and brought to life. Slowly, I carried the gifts I had bought for my nephews to the living room. I arranged them under the tree, their bright wrapping paper and shiny bows a reminder of the joy I had wanted to share. I opened them one by one, imagining the excited faces I would never see, the laughter I would never hear. I smiled, a small, sad curve of my lips, letting the mix of love and disappointment settle in my chest. I sipped my wine, feeling the warmth spread through me, and allowed myself a moment to reflect. This wasn't the Christmas I had envisioned. There was no shared joy, no family hugs, no collective memories being made. But for the first time, I didn't feel powerless. I had created a space that belonged to me, free from cruelty and dismissal. I had taken back what was mine and found a strange sense of solace in the quiet. As the fire crackled and snow drifted past the windows, I realized that Christmas didn't have to be about others' approval or presents to be meaningful. For years, I had tied my happiness to their recognition, their gratitude, and their smiles. This year, I discovered that I could claim peace and satisfaction on my own terms. I looked at the gifts again and whispered a quiet promise to myself. I would continue to care, to love, and to create joy, but I would no longer sacrifice my own well-being for those who didn't appreciate it. I smiled again, a little more fully this time, knowing that even if they never understood why Christmas had been ruined, I had finally found a holiday that belonged to me, and for the first time, that was enough. After the chaos at the cabin, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Mark, Tessa, and even my parents were calling non-stop, yelling, accusing me of being vindictive and cruel. Every message and call was filled with anger, frustration, and disbelief that I had taken control of the situation. I stayed calm, taking a deep breath before responding. I paid for it. You told me I wasn't welcome. I just respected your wishes. I told them evenly, without shouting or apologizing. There was no arguing, no begging, just a clear statement of fact. I wasn't about to let their anger make me feel guilty for standing up for myself. As the hours passed, the calls kept coming, but I stopped answering most of them. Instead, I focused on the quiet, the warmth of the cabin, and the peace I finally felt. Their frustration no longer had power over me. For years, I had let their opinions, dismissals, and insults define my worth. Now, I realized that their anger was just noise, one I could ignore because I had acted fairly and with reason. I also noticed subtle support coming from other relatives. Some who had silently watched everything unfold began sending private messages, whispering their admiration for me. They recognized the courage it took to finally stand up for myself, to refuse to be treated as nothing, and to take back control of something that had been unjustly taken from me. Those small gestures reminded me that not everyone sided with cruelty, and that my actions had meaning beyond the immediate family drama. The rift with my immediate family grew permanent. Invitations stopped, calls went unanswered, and there was no attempt to reconcile. While it hurt, I realized that losing them was better than losing myself. I no longer felt the need to be the family doormat, the one who silently sacrificed and tolerated mistreatment. I had drawn a line, and I wasn't going back. For the first time, I felt a sense of self-respect I hadn't allowed myself in years. The betrayal had been painful, but it had also taught me an important lesson. My happiness and dignity mattered more than trying to please people who didn't value me. I ended the story knowing that I had finally stood up for myself, that I had reclaimed the holiday that had been stolen from me, and that I would never again allow anyone to dismiss me so easily. Losing them hurt, yes, but it also freed me, and that freedom was more valuable than the approval or presence of people who had shown they didn't truly care. What would you have done if your family treated you like I did? Would you stand your ground, or try to mend things despite the betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear your take. And if stories like this grab your attention, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another one.